I never would have expected this header install to fight me like this, but if you're thinking about doing it, there's one O2 sensor mistake you really want to avoid before you start. Gentlemen, start your engines! Hey YouTube, today I'd like to show you the process I went through to swap the headers on my 2002 supercharged Frontier. I started this project because I had a suspicion that the driver's side precat was clogged because when I'd changed spark plugs, all three on that side were black and the truck sounded like it was being choked. So I figured $130 for some headers was a cheap way to test this theory. If you want your engine to go from this to this, let's get into it. So everyone says the passenger side is harder. Not quite sure why that is at the moment, but we'll find out. Don't do trucks, kids. They're bad. A 10 mil up here, right in between these guys. One here, one here, one here, one here, one here, one down here. They're all over the place. Holy crap, that unthreaded nicely. I could have sworn that was gonna be a bad one. But hey, I will never complain about that. I guess that one doesn't matter because it's already detached. Fun. Gotta say, however Nissan coated these bolts, they are coming free nicely. Thanks, light. There's our primary O2 sensor. I'm gonna pull that out of the way. There it is. Well, we just impacted my wobbly right in half. That's fun. Oh, I have to zoom in on this later. There's a crack right here in this manifold. And again, unthreads nicely. So that is what we're trying to deal with next. There's 3 fasteners up there. Oh, yeah. That actually unscrewed nicely. What the heck? Another nut came off cleanly. That is crazy. So it's a little hard to see, but right through here is our gap where we just got those other nuts off. And then up here, and we have studs going both directions, which is just so much fun, Nissan. So happy you did that. So, my thought, if we can come in and take out these studs the proper way, E10 socket. Ever heard of an E10? Apparently it's a sort of Torx. Unbelievable how much of this hardware is coming out nicely though. That is crazy. There it is. Yet another clean. Wow. This precat is somewhat loose. Dang it. Made a nice chunk out of my tool. Okay. Apparently that is not a bimetallic blade. That is a wood blade. I'll say, just straight up grinding it off is pretty messy. Ow! Yeah, we're gonna have to do some more work on that. Alright, let's remove some header nuts. Right there. That bolt from the power steering is just in the way. So, if I can get the light on there. Just notched it. It's out. Liquid impediment. Here is my shiny, super cheap header. 130 bucks shipped, I believe. The weird thing is the stud holes for the rear cylinder on this side, they're wrong. The block is configured for the other two. But strangely, instead of just making this consistent, Nissan did the opposite. We should be able to swap that stud to the other position. The missing stud is the one that sat down in the wrong place. So, let's get to that, I guess. So again, this is our E10 socket, our weird giant Torx thing. Of course, everyone has their own favorite. I've had the best luck with deep creep. Just for funs, we'll give it a little. Let that work its way in for a minute. We're gonna try and tighten a little bit before we loosen. That would be not good. Really? It just sheared off. All right, those are snug together. Sparky, Sparky. welding, welding noises. Well, that took 4 tries, but then it finally came off on the 4th one, where I put a little support bead on the end. Sorry, the other side got a little support bead. But what a pain in the butt. A little brake clean on a towel. Try and get those exhaust ports nice and clean. That heat shield down there is really in the way. Give you a little better idea of what we're looking at. So right down here, you can see the heat shield is hitting the header, so I think we have to figure out how to bend that back a little bit. Day 4. So let's take a look at what's going on here. We have got some light. The O2 sensor is wedged like way tight in there. So I think we might need to pull it back a little bit and then wind it in, and then snug it back in. Nice. Now, we just wind the fasteners down to pull the header back into position. Again, we're not torquing this, we're just winding them down right now. That's the first time I think I've ever seen one of these roll towards me instead of away. All right, so I can't actually use the torque wrench on most of these, so I'm gonna do my best. But our order is top center, bottom center, top front, bottom rear, rear upper, front lower. So the spec is approximately 22 foot-pounds. So that is what we're gonna try and do. But again, unfortunately, there's no way that the torque wrench will fit in there. So I'm gonna calibrate my good and tight hand here and see how we do. Okay, woo! We have one header installed on the engine. There's our main cat reaching up to give a hand to our header. Kindly, these cheap headers did include some decent looking gaskets. Whether they're actually decent, it's hard to say, but they also included brand new hardware for the main cat connection here. Shiny, bright, zinc-coated fasteners. Make sure to smack yourself right in the face with your flashlight. It really helps. So you can actually reach up from the inside and sneak under there. So I've got a 14 ratchet on a long extension down there. And then we can just kind of set this 17 on top and smack me in the face with the flashlight again. So we have 2 bolts in, and I just want to wind it a little closer so I'm not having to lift it so far. So we don't want to tighten that, so we only have 1 fastener in so far. So we're running a ratchet with a very long extension from the top with the 17 and the bolt fed through, and we're going to come up from the bottom to put the 14 on. We got to fix some exhaust now. I think the camera died here, but my dad helped me to use a ratchet strap fed around the torsion bar and attached to the far side to pull the exhaust away from the transmission. As it was in contact, it wouldn't bolt up to the sort of white pipe. I think this is bented enough to be in the right place, and from the reports I've read online, this is common for this header set. Day 5. You can see I'm losing hair from it now. Day 6. We're getting close, though. So the reason I started this whole project is because I suspected this precat to be bad. Get some better pictures of that, but that cat is definitely bad. 100% justified in replacing things. Now, whether this is the best plan or not, yeah, I don't know. But the issue right now is we need to get that manifold and cat out, which Nissan didn't make easy for some reason. So I am going to take a few things apart here and see if that will give us enough room. That works really well for the right connectors. Look at that. Comes right out with no heat shields. All right, mission update time. So, I'll post a picture in a second here, but yeah, the cats are real bad on this side. The pre-cat on the other side look totally fine. This one, it is somewhat plugged, somewhat broken, somewhat jammed in there. And then the downstream cat is worse. It's totally plugged looking, so I've got to figure out how to deal with that. But my plan for the moment, we're gonna finish the header install, get that all done, bolted up to the flange, and then figure out what to do about the cat later. So we're gonna use our same route from the top to get this guy in here. I missed a few clips here for some reason. We reinstalled the O2 sensor on the driver's side, cut off more exhaust studs and nuts, reconnected the exhaust with new nuts and bolts. Also, I dealt with the plugged driver's main cat. The most famous words in racing are, gentlemen, start your engines! This has taken about 38 hours, I think, at this point. This is the 8th day of working on it. Not every day was a full day, obviously, but spread over 8 days. It has just been a nightmare. And that's how this whole project has gone. Brutal. Absolutely brutal. Do I think I am going to do this again? God, I hope not. Let's not do that. I don't want to. But I'm about to test drive it. So if you're going to get into this project, I think I have pretty close to the ideal order to do everything. Remove all the accessible precat heat shield bolts, pull the precat studs on the manifold side, pull the manifolds out the top, remove the precat downpipe nuts, remove the remaining precat heat shield bolts. You'll have to probably rotate and kind of hold it. Pull the precat out the top on both sides, and this might save you the hassle of disconnecting the downstream exhaust. So the general tips I have for you for doing this: install the O2 sensor on the passenger side before tightening down the header. Otherwise, there's just not enough room to get it to feed in and thread into the hole. I wound up using my 300 foot-pound half-inch impact to get off all the manifold and precat nuts. Definitely buy some spare M10 by 1.25 studs. You can get them from Nissan, you can get them from Ace Hardware. You're going to need at least a few of them anyway. I believe it was 4 required, and then whatever excessive ones you need to, replace stuck ones. Be prepared for very tight access to the header and downpipe connections. Have lots of extensions, wobble sockets, your impact gun, S-wrenches, flex head ratchets. You're going to be digging deep in the toolbox because the access to those connections is so tight down there. If you find you do need to remove the downstream exhaust connections, be prepared to just cut the studs and nuts off, grind, drill. I had the best luck with a diamond cutoff wheel on my grinder, and then finishing off with a little spherical ball carbide burr on my Dremel. And that let me do a good job because I could cut off most of it, walk the little Dremel ball around the, the flange to stud area on both sides, and then it just fell right out. One other thing that I think is probably critical: you need an M10 capable stud puller socket. It is just a wonderful tool to have. You should have one for all your common sizes for metric vehicles, M6, M8, M10. To get those studs in and out, it's really the best thing, other than obviously the welder and the impact, to walk those off. All right, in conclusion, the question, if you're watching this far, was it worth it? Barely. I think if I had bought a higher end set of headers for the truck, it would be much more smooth to do the install. You wouldn't have to bend the exhaust back into position. You wouldn't have such tight mounting holes on the flange going to the engine side. It'd probably make the whole install just a little bit easier all around. But how much of the benefit was doing the headers and how much was unplugging that cat? I'd say probably the performance benefits were probably 70% getting the cats unplugged and 30% boost from the headers. Sound-wise, though, I'd say that's about 90% or so. The headers made a big difference. There's a much deeper tone. The truck sounds way, way better, even than a stock exhaust would. We still have the full stock exhaust downstream of the headers, the giant muffler under the bed, everything. So if you know what you're getting into, you follow these tips, it's probably worth it. But don't think it's going to be just a Sunday afternoon. Plan for it to take multiple days. Give yourself plenty of time. Put your expectations low for how easy this is going to be. And you'll probably be happy with the end result. So that's all I got for you. Thanks for watching. Have a good one. Bye.